Hi, this is Sarah Rector, welcoming you to the teleseminar about exploring the adoption option. So excited to have a great panel of speakers to share their knowledge and their experience with you. And so I want to thank you to coming to this particular teleseminar.
Okay, great. So just introduce myself. I'm Nicci. I'm a mum to a 10-month-old baby boy that we adopted in June last year. So that's a little bit of our journey. My husband and I had been trying for about 2 years prior to adopting a baby. We went through the various IVF treatments with some pregnancies, some miscarriages, and decided pretty much after our last try just take some time out and to see what's important to us. We had talked to the doctors at the IVF clinics, and they basically advised us to use a surrogate and donor eggs and things like that. That I ended up going to a Resolve conference and just going to all of the talks that they had on at the time about adoption. And one of the best things I ever did just to get a much better view of my options or our options, the different types of adoption, and really what it all meant. I mean, I went in there thinking that, domestic adoptions would take years and years, and international would be the way to go, and never really thought about open adoption or what it really meant. One of those talkers at the conference was the lawyer from Adopt Help, and they actually had on their own little seminar the following weekend, I think it was. So I also went to that one. I had a chance at the lunchtime at the Resolve conference to talk to him, and really liked what he was saying about adoption, about the process, and how his well, it's not an agency, his firm, I guess, basically works. So went along to a meeting with him, like an open house meeting, and just listened to what everybody else had to say, which is really good. They had him talking, they had parents talking who just recently adopted, and just felt really good about the way he described everything and the process that they go through. So basically, my husband and I talked about it for a little bit, and we went and met with Mark from Adopt Help and signed the papers and decided to go for it. So the next step of the journey then is to do your birth parent letter, I guess, which is more of a big portfolio and quite a production to put together. But it was a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time. I think it took us probably close to a month to write the whole thing, just to pick out all the photos and just to put into words who we are, and to make sure that the potential birth mothers out there who read this and get to see this get until we would finally have a match. And we were very lucky. We got matched within 6 weeks of having we had a pretty good relationship with the birth mum. She was in Chicago, Detroit, basically. My husband and I live overseas in Saudi Arabia, so we just stayed in telephone contact with her and email contact, and had made a plan to be there for the birth of the baby. She was having a planned cesarean section. So we flew into Detroit probably about 4 days before she was due, and had originally planned to meet up with her a few days before the C-section. Unfortunately, it ended up being a failed adoption. When we got there, we could not get in contact with her. She wouldn't return our calls or text messages, and eventually she got in contact with our lawyer, saying that she no longer wanted us to be there for the birth, which was the original plan. And the next day after she had given birth, contacted our lawyer again and told them that she had changed her mind. I can honestly say that was pretty devastating for us, and a very hard time for us to go through. The only thing, or I think the main thing that kept me going through it all, was having talked to her and knowing her, that I knew that this baby, which I thought was going to be my daughter, was going to be living with her, and that she's a wonderful mum. She already had 2 children. She's loving, she's caring, and I know that with the child may not have the financial advantages it would have had with us, she would have everything she would need, which is a loving mum and her siblings with her. throughout the whole process, I'd always basically prayed that the child would end up in the right home. I found it very hard to pray for the child to be placed directly with me, or to ask God or whoever you believe in for somebody to give up their child. So I just had it in my mind always said to please make sure that this child ends up in a home and with the parents that are best for her. And I think that belief really helped me go through that failed adoption, that I just thoroughly believed that that wasn't the right child for us, but our child was still out there. We knew that we still wanted to go forward with adoption. We knew that this was the right path for us, so we basically just put our portfolios back out there. We stayed with the same lawyer because he was incredibly wonderful and supportive throughout this whole process. We expected them to have quite a long wait because we never thought that we could be lucky twice and be matched so quickly twice. But we were actually matched again 2.5 months later. Now, our relationship with this birth mother, I think, was really different. It was far more open. It was far easier to communicate with her. I think I probably talked with really at least once a week. We also texted each other. We talked about the birth plan, basically. We talked a lot about future plans and all sorts of things like that. And we have a really good relationship right from the beginning. It felt right, pretty much right from the start. So again, we had the plan to go and meet her before the baby was due. She has 2 previous children, both of them which were at least 2 to 3 weeks past their due dates. So we thought we had a bit of time by being there again about 5-6 days before her due date. Unfortunately, our little boy decided that that was not to be. He decided to come early. So he came on Father's Day last year, and Hayley and her partner Kenny, which is straight away, and I was hours to meet our little boy. Tate had to stay in hospital for about 10 days in the intensive care unit because he had a center eruption and he had a bit of a rough few days to start off with. But what was really wonderful at the time is that Hayley, his birth mum, was also obviously in the hospital for quite a few days, having had emergency C-section. So got to spend lots of time with her. Just spent lots of time with Kenny, which is Tate's birth dad. We got to meet a lot of her family. So we got to meet Hayley's mum. We got to meet her other little boy. We got to meet sisters and nephews, and basically, a lot of the family, the birth family, which I think for me is wonderful just to see where he came from, what his birth parents and birth relatives are like, what wonderful people they are. They are extraordinary people. And for them, I think it was great to meet us and to have such time with us to really get to know us. Kenny's sister wrote us a beautiful long letter after meeting us, just saying how wonderful it was to have that time to meet us and to talk to us, and having met us, that feels that you can have peace with Hayley's decision to give up Tate for adoption. I'm not sure really what else to say, except that for us the process, we had one, as I said, we had one failed adoption along the way, but apart from that, the process was wonderful. We still are in contact to a certain degree with Hayley. We were in contact with her afterwards with phone calls. I still write on a regular basis and send her letters and photographs and updates on how Tate is doing. We haven't heard from her in about probably 4 or 5 months, but I expected that to be the case anyway, that it would just slowly die down and that she would get on with her life. And I'm hoping again, the same as Joan said, that hopefully she's found peace with the whole thing and is happy to see that Tate is doing really well, that he's loved, that he's happy. We hope that when the time came, if Tate asked to meet her, we would do that, whether it's when he's 8 or 10 or 20 or whatever. She's willing to meet him and be part of her family, and we've always been open to that idea as well. He will always know that he's adopted. He will always know from We have pictures of his birth mom and dad and brother, and he's got two brothers. And I think when the time comes, it is important for him to meet these people and to get to know them. At this point, I would just say feel free to touch or what else to add. I just find I just wanted to share a little bit of our journey. So.
Nicci, what a beautiful story, and it's so good to hear the rest of the story. Thank you so much for joining us. And I love the spiritual bent too. That sounds like that really that really was what sustained you. Can you hear me? Technology is not perfect but wonderful.